Hello everybody, welcome back to the Commonwealth Cabin. We are on the Garage Sale Nation channel right now. We have a different type of video, but something I'm passionate about, something I think a lot of resellers would be curious about, but not just resellers out there, people who collect VHS. We're going to talk about grading VHS today. When you should do it, why you should do it, which ones you should grade, the differences in the grading company, the differences in the grades, how much value it adds. We've got a ton of great topics. I've got a special guest here, Rod Picking and Punching. Got a great YouTube channel. You should go check it out. Follow him on Instagram as well. We're going to go over a bunch of topics today. And at the end of the video, I have a box with my first graded VHS. And we're going to open it live, and I'm going to let you see the grades and talk about it before I even look at them. I'm pretty excited about it. Let's get to it. All right, y'all, if you are new to this, if you're a lover of VHS like I am, like Rod is, first thing you need to know is what are the grading companies out there. We're going to jump right into that, and we're going to get the basics of what companies grade, and then we're going to get into detail about other things we should be talking about and thinking about if you're thinking about grading VHS. So what are the grading companies that are out there, Rod?
So there's three main grading companies out there, and the biggest thing is you have to know how they grade and why they grade that way. And that way you can make the decision what's best for you. Okay. So you got Beckett, which used to be VHS
I'm
DNA.
I'm over here, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so this one's Beckett.
Right here.
Right here. And this one's mine.
That's yours. So this company used to be called VHS DNA. They were bought out by Beckett. You guys may be familiar with Beckett. They do comic books and sports cards. Maybe if you're a kid growing up, you got the Beckett Price Guide magazine.
Oh, yeah.
You looked at all your sports cards, your baseball cards. They are now into VHS. Okay. So that's one of the companies here.
Now,
when they grade the box, a scale of 1 through 10.
Okay, so they're grading, so we're going to get into the grading.
We're going to do that. They grade the box, a scale 1 through 10, and they also grade the seal separately on a scale of like A+ all the way down to...
So the seal grade is an A, B, C, you know, that type of grade, but this is a number.
Correct. So the seal will be on a scale of A all the way down, but they add A+, A-, and the box is on a scale of 10.0 down to 1.0.
Okay, and that's different, of course, than the other ones, which we're going to talk about here in a second. Second one you're going to talk about, well, I don't know. You tell me which one's the second one you're going to talk about.
Second one...
There are three, right?
There's three. There's three right now. Second one I'm talking about is IGS. Okay. Now, IGS, they grade the box and they grade the seal separately. Okay. They grade the box on a scale of 1 through 10. Okay. 10 being the highest, 1 being lowest. And they also grade the seal on a 10 down to...
All right, help me out. I'm a little slow, you know. I didn't do too good in school, you know. The grade on the top was what over here?
A box.
A box.
And then the seal.
And the seal.
But they, instead of using a number 1 through 10 in the seal, they use the alphabet, A, B, C, D, like you would when you used to teach in school.
Okay, gotcha. So they don't say box up here, but they say seal here, so you know this is box and this is the seal. And so they label it at the top, box on the left, and seal on the right. This is yours right here.
That's mine right there.
Okay, and that's an IGS one right there. Okay.
Right. And then the last grading company, we actually don't have one here. What we'll do is we'll pop a picture here up on the screen so you guys can see
put it over here.
What we're talking about is VGA. Now, VGA grades the box and the seal as 1.
As 1. Yeah. Interesting.
And they grade it from a scale of 100 down to 0. Okay. They do add like a plus and a minus in there, but the way you need to know that these things are very important. The reason for that is if you have a seal that's ripped, but the box is perfect, you're not going to send the VGA because you're going to get a really low score because they grade the boxes together. Okay. You want to send either Beckett or IGS.
Okay, very good. So, would you do me a favor? And I didn't say this before we were talking about this video. Would you give your opinion? And look, there's lots of different opinions out there, but Rod's to me, he's one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever talked to about this. Would you give your opinion of like, which one would you send them into? Which one's the best? And this is just an opinion, so go ahead.
So it's my personal opinion. I do not like the box design on the Beckett ones, okay? It just doesn't, when you have it displayed with up there on slanted down. Now, that's my personal opinion. It also doesn't fit real well on a shelf. Okay, I like the IGS.
Yeah, it's thicker.
It's thicker. Yep. Yeah, and it has a little slight move in here, which... Okay. I don't like either. You know, you want something to be actually extremely tight inside.
Not that anybody cares about my opinion. I totally agree with you. I don't like that. Yeah. The look of that compared to that.
Correct. This is a cleaner look to it. I like the look of the IGS.
You know what I don't like about it? I mean, I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
You gotta forgive me. You can't see the top of the box.
Correct.
I don't like it. I love the fact that you can see that right there.
If you think of it sitting on your shelf up here, stuff like that, you can see that right away. You can't see that up there. So if you had these up higher, that's the reason why I don't care for this
particular
design.
style.
Also, too, is, IGS has a bigger market share, so I personally prefer IGS over Beckett. Now, when it comes to VGA grades the box and the seal as one, so it's a tougher grade. So a lot of people say that's one of the best grading companies out there. Just because of that, I would prefer to go through IGS or VGA. It's going to be personal preference. But I said that, if you have any flaws on your seal or your box separately, but the other one looks like a perfect, I really prefer IGA.
Now, you wouldn't turn away somebody giving you a gift of a first run Goonies.
No.
In a Beckett VHS.
No, absolutely. I would take it personally.
Yes.
I'm saying this is based on personal preference. I really prefer the IGS cases. I think they're a lot cleaner looking. They look great displayed, or VGA.
Okay, so there you go. So you're going IGS probably for you, number one, VGA, and then Beckett.
Yeah,
okay.
So IGS and VGA are going to be pretty much the same level for me between the two. It's just based on, depending on how the condition of the tape would be, if there's any damage to the seal of the box, I may go one company over the other.
Do you think that there is a big difference in the resale market? In other words, would it really affect the grade? If you had the exact same grade on a video from Beckett and IGS, exact same video, exact same VHS, do you think it would add value to have one over the other? Or do you think it's pretty much the same?
So think of it like as a collector. If you're collecting something for your collection, you want things to look displayed perfectly, displayed
and uniformly.
And uniform, yeah. So having these on my shelf, it just doesn't have that good appeal to it. So that's why I personally don't like that. People will. I know a lot of people that do prefer IGS or VGA over this design. Okay. Now, yes, some companies do get a higher premium for their VHS. A lot of people think VGA grades the toughest because they're grading the seal and the box into one. So if you get a score of 90 or 100 in that, and that means the seal in the box is perfect. So, that one could get a premium in the market compared to some of the other companies.
All right. By the way, we're not getting into the value of specific videos per se. If you're interested in that, the most valuable ones to look for, we have a video over on the Commonwealth Flipper channel talking about the top 20 most valuable VHS ever sold. So if you want to go check that out, you can. We'll link to it at the end of the video and probably in the description below. But I want to talk about why you want to get something graded. And for me, it might be different than it would be for somebody who's reselling, who's just trying to make money. For me, I like to collect VHS. I like to make money too. So it depends on the movie. It depends on the exact VHS for me, but for different people, there's different reasons as to why you would get something graded. All right, Rod, so what are the reasons why you would get something graded by one of these companies?
So pretty much 3 reasons. One is to increase the value. So if you're looking to resell it, if you have something that's really rare, if you get a really high score on that, there might be 4 or 5 tapes in the world that have that high score. Maybe you have the highest score, so you're going to be able to ask a premium. And I always like to give the example of the Michael Jordan rookie card. There might be 100,000 rookie cards out there, but if you have one graded that gets a 10 or a 10.0 on there, there might be only 300 of those in the world graded at 10.0. So now you can ask a big premium for that.
All right, so I'm going to give you an example and maybe get your opinion on something real quick. I'm going to show you another VHS that's not graded, and we'll talk about maybe the value of one not graded versus the value of one graded. Now, obviously, there's cost of grading, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Sure.
But you want to add value to a VHS. So we've got 2 identical, well, I don't know about the grade because this isn't graded, but identical VHS. They're both sealed here. So give me an example of maybe how much there'd be a difference in value for something like this, and talk about maybe some higher end ones as well.
So you get a raw one here, which means that it's not graded. It is completely sealed. It's in excellent condition here. This one may sell anywhere from $50 to $100, $150 depending on the market and the person who's looking to buy it. Now this one here, this is a box that got graded an 8. The seal got graded 10. That's the top grade you can get for the actual seal on this one here. This one could sell for $400 or $500. Could sell $600, $700, $800. Just depends on the buyer and depends on the market value. Right. So you might be anywhere getting a 3 times, 5, 6, 7 times the value of a raw compared to a graded, just based on the grade in there.
Right. And it's difficult, by the way. If you're buying out there in the wild and you're getting it super cheap, not a big deal. But if you're doing retail arbitrage buying something like this, you really need to factor that into what you're paying versus how much it could be worth.
Correct. Because when you look at the grading fees, you're probably looking about roughly about $60. Somewhere in that ballpark, you have to pay to have the item shipped. you have to pay that and come back. You pay for insurance. So you may be into this anywhere from 80 to $100 in there.
Right. Okay.
So is it worth it for you to get a tape, get a graded, get a high score, and it comes back as selling on eBay for $150, $200? Maybe not.
Right.
But if you can get this and you turn it into a $400,000, $500,000, $800,000 VHS tape, now you just increase your chances and increase the value to it.
Okay, so what are some other reasons besides that for grading a VHS?
So I'll bring this one over here. So you have this Goonies one here. Now you can just tell the seal is really bad on this, but right here. So you gotta remember, some of these VHS tapes, they stopped making VHS tapes in the early 2000s, like 2005, 2006, some of that ballpark. So when you find these, these tapes that are 30, 40 years old, these seals are very fragile. So one of the biggest things is for protection. I know personally, I have butterfingers, so last thing I want to do is have these items sitting around my house.
I know we've been hauling these VHS around today, and I've been wondering where Wallen is. I'm like, I hope the dog's nowhere near these. Right?
So when you get it in this case, I can literally drop this, throw it against the wall, and it's going to protect us. You look at this. This is a thick. Look how thick that plastic is, or acrylic on here, and this is actually, it helps protect it, because if it was on the shelf, it fell off, I wouldn't worry about this ripping the seal or damaging the box. If this was on the shelf and fell, well, I have to caught a corner or something that could rip it. So that's the biggest thing for me is protection.
Okay. Also, there's another reason. What's your other reason?
So the biggest thing is I'm a personal collector. So I buy these. I get these graded for my personal collection. I also do, sell here and there. But the biggest thing is they look absolutely outstanding on your shelf. Reliving my childhood. When I walk in, I see these on display. Same reason why people slap comic books. They put sports cards up on display because they look great.
Yep, and it's a big reason for me too. That's one of the reasons I do it. It's the biggest reason I do it. It's not to make money. Although, if I found one that I wasn't in love with, I would definitely get it graded to resell. But, something like this, that just makes me smile when I look at it, right? And
it's a great, the other thing too is like the graphics, the color to them. The drawings from the 80s, I'm a big fan of the NES boxes because of the cover art. So I look at this not only as VHS, but also the cover art to these are just outstanding.
It's like what I do with my B-52s here. It's the same idea. I put them in those things right there because if I don't, they're going to be stacked up in something like this over here, and I don't get to see them. Yeah. And you're not going to, plaster something to the wall. So you can display it, of course, without it, but it's not protected, and then you feel like you don't want to display it. So,
absolutely.
All right, those are the main reasons why I would display it, and thanks for going through those. So if I'm out there in the wild and I'm picking things up, like I said, I'm just going to pick that. If I see that thing, I'm picking it up, right? I'm paying for it. But if I'm out there doing online arbitrage and I'm looking at these, 12 pictures somebody has of them, I'm looking for things that might be graded well, really high. And so what are the things you're looking for? How do they actually grade these things? What would contribute to that grade?
So I'm going to use this one as an example.
I might come right on the side here.
Yeah.
So you see it.
So a couple things you want to look for. One, we're going to grade the box first. So we're going to look at the corners, make sure your corners are sharp, they don't have any whiteness exposed to them. They're going to look at the edges, which is the outer sides of the box right here. You want to make sure that there's no damage there. And they're going to do the surface of the box, which is looking for indentations in the box, into the sides, anywhere, maybe dents, maybe it got bumped, got knocked off. So that's how you get your grade just for the actual box.
Now this one has no, I don't want to interrupt you, but now this one has no watermarks or something, but
correct.
Would smudging in the watermark be any kind of a thing as far as affecting a grade at all? So, or is that pretty irrelevant?
So this actually does have a watermark right here. Right there inside Coliseum Videos right there. But what do you mean by putting thumbprints or something like that on there?
Well, no, like on the watermark itself, let's say, because this watermark is applied to it, and maybe let's say it's smudged or something, as opposed to a copy that doesn't have a smudged watermark.
Sure. That's a great question. I don't think because it's going to be factory produced. So a lot of times grading companies will not
uniform.
Yeah, pretty uniform. It depends on the grading company, but when it comes to something that's a factory error compared to physical damage out after being produced, so it's really going to come down to that. But but when you talk about the seal, you bring up a good point. So there's actually things you want to look for on the seal. So real similar to when you're looking at the box, you want to look at the corners and the edges of the seals. Okay, make sure you want to look for rips, damages in there.
Do we see? Is there some right here?
No, that's not really. No, not really there. I'm going to just use this example right here in this Hulkamania. You see this circle right here? That's actually not damaged. That's actually going to be an air vent in there.
Yep.
These
You
are actually
showed me
factory
something
produced.
earlier.
Yeah.
So to show this one, and you'll see on this one, if you hopefully we can get the camera to
So
show
you can see right here that
Hold
this
on,
is...
let me get the glare out of there. Maybe they can see it.
Yeah.
Right
here.
here.
Okay, so right there is actually...
A little bit up. I'm seeing my face in there. If you can't see it, there's a little bit of it tilted a little bit more. Right here, there's a vent. And it's actually pretty big compared to that vent right there, but this one's still got a 10.
You got a 10 on the seal because
perfect seal.
Because that's meant to be produced by the factory like that.
Okay.
So what is considered like an air vent for the actual VHS.
Now, if you have a tear like the Goonies one, that's a big issue.
Yeah, so this is something you would never want to get graded because it's a massive tear right there. I mean, even the box could be perfect. That tear is going to give you a really low grade on your seal.
Right.
Also on the seal too, you want to look for tightness. How tight that seal is on there. I mean, you can tell like this one right here, this is loose. You know, this is a very loose one. So this one's not going to get good grade, but you do want to look at that. And like on the old IGS boxes, they used to actually break down, you know, the seal on the surface. Yeah, so they don't do that anymore. But on the old ones, they actually do that. And also to the surface. We looked at the surface of the box when it came to, actually, let me give an example here. So if you look at the Mario right here, on the surface right here, you have that scratch right there. Okay, so that's going to hurt this in the grading process because you have that scratch right there.
See if I can get that angle in there. Yeah, I think they can
Yeah,
see
you
it.
see that right there. So that's an example of a surface damage. So these are things that you want to look for on these. I mean, other than this, I mean, it's looking pretty decent on here, but that surface damage, and then also too, things that help you want to look for like watermarks or factory seals on these.
Now, I'm just going to change topic for just a second. Let's say we have just a totally low-end VHS. Let me grab one. All right, so this is mass-produced. It's got watermarks. It's got the sticker. It's got this over here. I mean, everything's there. It's a low-end VHS compared to some of the things we've been talking about, especially in that other video.
Yeah.
But they're still going to grade it the same way. It has nothing to do with the actual content of the VHS. It just has to do with those things that he's been talking about.
Yeah,
here.
so let's just say if you bought this for $1, it's only worth $1. They're still going to grade the same way they're going to grade a first print of Star Wars, you know, because the grading process is going to be the same across the board.
Right, because I might want that graded, right? This is the first movie I ever took a girl to, and I sat in the back row and barely watched the movie.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm kidding. Well, partly kidding. So I actually might, if I'm a collector, grade something, even if it's not increasing the value, and it would still matter to me what the grade was. It might not matter to anybody else, but it would matter to me.
Because that's the first time, you know, you went on a date with a girl first time. So that's something that's going to bring back good memories. So everyone has a reason. Maybe it's something that you watched with your mom growing up and your mom passed away early in your life. Right. Maybe it's something that your brother and sister watch all the time. You just want to. It has that special feeling for you. So you want to get this displayed, even though it's not worth anything, worth what it would cost. You might pay more money for what it costs to get graded than what it's actually worth, but it means something to you, and that's all that matters. You know, they always say beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
That's right. You got it. So we just talked about like a low end one that might have value to a particular person like me, for instance. But if you are grading it for the purposes of collecting for long-term investment or something like that, you know, what kind of videos maybe would you like to get graded versus ones that maybe you shouldn't be grading?
So one thing to keep in mind is just because something's rare doesn't mean it's going to add more value if it gets graded. You know, we got a lot of these horror movies out there that might sell for like $1,000 on eBay with brand new sealed. Getting it graded is not going to push that to the next level, make it a $10,000 VHS or something along those lines, because people only want that to watch it. Now, what you want to look for is the mainstream stuff. You're going to look for like Top Gun. You want to look for like Super Mario Brothers, stuff that people are going to want. Star Wars, Rocky, Jaws, Goonies, the main movies out there, because that's going to have a big cult following to those, and that's what collectors are going to want, because they're going to want something that's rare from those movies.
Right. It might be produced, 100 copies, but nobody cares about it, so we're not going to go ahead and get that thing graded like that.
It's like buying a book. Like there's tons of Harry Potter books out there, but if you get a first edition Harry Potter book, it's something special because it's something that is a big part of people's life or mainstream that people want.
And has a bigger market.
Correct.
All right, Rod, one thing I wanted to talk about, because it's, we talk about these boxed versions and stuff. It's very difficult to find a clamshell out there in terrific condition. And so what are some of the issues that maybe you see with clamshells, and how rare is it to find a decent clamshell?
A lot of the clamshells, the box design make it very difficult because, just having the bigger, it's not square. You have more indentations right here, more give inside there like this. Compared to like this, there's no give. So, so you have a lot better chance of damaging the actual seal in these than you would in a regular VHS.
And really, you don't see a ton of clamshells graded for maybe multiple reasons. But my experience is that you really, really don't see a whole ton of clamshells that are in terrific condition, which I wish this one was, just for my sake, although it definitely has some issues. But I still like the clamshell, and there's probably a bunch of people out there like me that would enjoy grading something like this, but they are harder to find. Even you see the indentations in there. But you do see, and this is something you brought up before, just because it doesn't have plastic on it doesn't necessarily mean it's not a new sealed VHS. And you'll see, and there's no examples here, but a lot of times on the Disney ones, for instance, and I personally wouldn't grade. I have seen people grade like the Little Mermaid, rare copy or whatever, which isn't all that rare, but and they'll have a seal sealing the actual VHS, and some of them have two seals essentially. I don't know what you call that sticker right there, but it's sealing the outside and the inside. I'm not aware of too many that were put out that didn't have plastic on it box wise though.
Yeah, so not so much for the boxes, but more or less with a lot of the, especially in like the early 80s, you get a lot that just have a sticker. It's like a silver sticker in the center right here. And that's actually their seal. They actually didn't put plastic on those.
So along those lines, I want to ask you one more thing. I see a lot of people grading, and we've talked about this before, but I think there are some people who mistakenly grade things because they think they're worth a lot of value when it might be, like here, the Top Gun, for instance. There's different versions of it, and most people will look at these two and think it's the same thing. Obviously, there's a sticker difference, but there's other minor differences as well. Do you think there's folks out there who make the wrong decision and grade a VHS that is really not worth grading?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you brought a good example. If you actually flip this one over here, this is actually 1996. Okay, when you flip this one over here, this is actually 1987, on this one. You have the white Paramount watermarks there. You can look at the UPC codes on the side, can be different on different versions of this. So even though
these numbers here,
these numbers,
is a serial number or whatever it is, could be possibly different.
But also too, look at the design, how it's different between the two.
Blue versus
75th
black.
Anniversary. They don't see that there. Might have the same numbers there.
Viacom. And then Viacom is different as well.
There's a picture there. There's no picture here. So these are little things that you have to really do your research on these. Especially if you're starting out, if you want to learn about it, you think you get something rare, go on eBay, go on Heritage Auction, Golden Auctions. Go look at the sold comps of these tapes, and then take your video, compare it, and look at every little detail in this. See, it's going to help you understand the market, understand what you actually have.
We'll talk about a couple more things here. We're going to open the box that I had graded. I'm excited to do that here pretty quick, but I wanted to do two things really quick. I want to give a thank you to somebody. I also want to say a little bit about being cautious about reseals, because there are folks out there who will reseal a VHS, and you don't want to buy it thinking it's something that is worth a bunch of money. And there are people out there who will reseal it for the purpose of reselling it. And there are definitely ways to tell, and the grading companies will for sure know out there. And that's part of the reason for the watermarks and the inner seals and stuff like that. But I want to give you an example of a resealed VHS.
Take a look at this one right here. Okay, this is probably a bad example because it's so obvious that this is a reseal.
It's so bad.
But this is it's actually a good example for us, because if you see, if you look at this one right here, you don't see any damage underneath here at all. Okay, when you get these right here, you start seeing the white damage on the outer borders of this, damage inside. That's over top. This even has a sticker under the seal. So this is obviously someone resealed this tape.
And it might even have been like a booth number in an antique booth or something like that.
A lot of times, like Blockbusters, Hollywood Videos, a lot of places like that used to reseal.
So they could put stickers on and barcodes and stuff in order to sell them.
Another thing I'd be cautious about too is sometimes when people rip the seals, they'll take an old price tag sticker and put it over top of it to try to protect it. So you want to keep an eye on stuff like that. Also, to protect yourself, you want to take a look for, you always want to look for watermarks. You want to look for protective stickers on these, like the Mario here we're talking about here. That's underneath there. So these are things that can really help protect you when you are buying and try to invest some money in these. But make sure you do your research. Not only take a look at the pictures, but look at sold comps of items that you want to see, or sold comps of graded items.
Because I've looked. Matter of fact, the one movie I was looking for, not this particular version of the Never Ending Story, but there was an earlier copy that I really, really wanted, and it was super cheap out there. I'm like, what in the world's going on? And you look into it a little deeper, and it was a reseal. And they actually stated that it was a reseal, but they put a price on it that was above most used items because of, somebody put plastic over it, for instance. But you got to really check it out, especially if you're going to invest a lot of money to try to grade it and then flip it again.
And you brought up a really good point when you talk about the plastic. To think about if you find a really fine piece of clothing like cashmere or something like that, when you touch it, you're going to feel that's a quality piece of clothing. Same thing with your seals. These have a certain feel to them. When you start doing this long enough, you can start just feeling the seals on it. If the type of plastic they're using, where this is like a hard plastic overhang. Yeah, so it's not tight. Yeah, remember they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on machines to produce these. And when people are doing them at home, now, but people got really good nowadays with resale. So just protect yourself out there.
All right, y'all, we are clearly in the digital age. So there's a lot of folks out there, which is to our advantage to some degree, who think, that people are getting rid of CDs, getting rid of tapes, getting rid of VHS. They've been doing this for quite a long time. And some people might suggest that there's not a huge future in this. But I personally think there is, because I like it. And if I like it, then there's bound to be somebody else out there who likes it. I just got this one right here. This is an awesome movie. This came from Death Pile Picker. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that greatly. This is an awesome one. And I can't wait to get this one graded. And I know that I get excited about this stuff, and I want to get some of this stuff graded. So where do you see the future of this? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is there any new players in the market that might kind of make waves?
Sure. So let's use this example right here. Okay, Super Mario Brothers. This movie, they just came out with a new movie right now. That movie's going to go over $1 billion in gross sales. When you see that movie, it's going to take you back to your childhood. You're going to want to go out, say, I had this movie as a kid. I'm going to go out and buy this movie, get this maybe display for my collection. Everything Mario, from video games to VHS, has gone up since that movie. So, depending on what's hot in the market.
And also, let me make another another argument here. There's a whole new generation being introduced to this, where my kid wasn't alive when this was going on. But you know what? This might become important to him if he becomes a Mario Brothers fan, and you might go back, and this might be, something valuable to some people who weren't even alive when VHS were being produced.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. That's a really good point, And then you asked me about where the future's going, where I see this. I think VHS is here to stay. They're not producing VHS anymore. So these are becoming more rare as time goes on. Is people going to find some hidden warehouse of some VHS? Probably. That stuff happens all the time with everything out there. But when it comes to the grading, you have these, we talked about the 3 players in the market, VGA, Beckett, and IGS. One thing you guys want to look out for, though, is CGC is going to be grading VHS in the future.
And that's a comic book one?
Yes. Those that don't know, CGC is the biggest graded comic book company in the world. CGC grades a bunch of things. They grade coins, they grade magazines, comic books. They even started grading video games. They're actually going to be starting down the line grading sneakers as well. So keep, being a lookout.
And then soon down the line, they're going to be grading plush, right? We're going to have the first grade. I'm going to put one of these guys in a little case right there. Hey, you never know, right?
You wish, right? But when they come in the market...
Action figures, I've seen that.
Well, VGA's companies, actually, they have a couple of different companies associated with VGA. They actually grade action figures.
And loose ones, too, I've seen.
And loose ones, too.
Yeah, because the display factor, and I think that is a huge part of it.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for CGC, because when they come in the market, they're going to pretty much, it's going to disrupt the market at that point in time. Are they come in and take market share? Maybe, but it all depends. These companies need to stay up and keep up with them. Gotcha. But also, too, is down the line, I would not be surprised if we start grading regular VHS, loose VHS, that's open rated. The reason for that is, if it's super rare, we're not getting any more brand new VHS. So that's going to run out at some point in time. We start getting everything gets graded. Yep. What they're going to do is start finding super rare, what they call open VHS, and get those graded. They start doing it in video games now. Start grading open VHS.
You're starting to see cassette tapes as well, which is a topic for another day.
Laser discs.
There are some challenges, laser discs, there's all kinds of stuff. If somebody has an attachment to it, grading, I think, is inevitable.
DVDs as well.
There you go. Very good. You never know. Maybe CDs, we're passing them, because we passed up this sealed stuff for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Imagine what we could have collected if we would have saw the future, because we had an opportunity, and cassettes are just moving into that right now. Just the last 5 years, we could have been collecting those, and those would have some value as well.
Well, it goes hand in hand, though. So VHS cassettes, 80s and 90s. They go hand in hand with each other. So if you had one, you had the other. If you're going to focus on getting these graded, and that's what you watch on TV, what do you do listen in your car? What do you do listen in your Walkman? It's going to be cassette tapes. So it makes sense why there's a natural progression into cassette tapes.
Got it. Well, hey, I just want to say thank you for joining us. It's been a wealth of knowledge, and I am going to open some graded VHS. All right, y'all, this is not how Rod Picking and Punching told me to do this reveal. So sorry, Rod, but this is the way we're going to do it. This is from IGS. This video is going to be long anyways. Here they are. I'm looking for 8s, 9s, 10s. I'm not looking for any 7s, but you know, there might be one in here. So we'll see. And some of these wouldn't necessarily be ones that everybody would want to grade. It's just I kind of wanted to grade them. So here we go. I don't know which ones they are here. What do we got? We have Dirty Dancing, 8.5, 8.5. Okay. This would be one that's not necessarily a grader, but it's got some local. This was filmed at Mountain Lake here in Virginia. And so I wanted to have that one. 8.5. All right, so we're 1 for 1. Nothing in the 7s here, baby. Nothing in the 7s. That's what we want. All right, number 2. Indiana Jones. All right, now that's what I'm talking about. 9.5 and a 9, and this one's got some good value right here. So there you go. Paramount watermarks down the back. Very, very cool. Black back Indiana Jones, and I'm happy about that one. That one up there is a black back, but it's obviously not sealed, and that's an earlier copy right there. So very happy about that one right there. That one might even be the first copy of that. So, actually, I'm pretty certain it is. Here we go. Next. And there is, I'm thinking, well, I don't even remember, to be honest with you. We have a 9 and a 9.5. Sweet. This one was personal for me. There's none out there graded like this. There's very hard to find. It's probably not worth an absolute ton, but this is gonna be a profit for sure. This was in that lot. Very happy with that one. 9.5, and it's box on the left and seal on the right, just FYI. There's the box damage right there. There's just a tiny bit. So 9 and 9.5, very happy. Doing good so far. And last but not least here is, there it is. Now look, you'll see this one out there, but you see how they got the Warner Brothers mark out there? Those are the harder ones to find, and we have a 9 and a 9.5, so very happy with these right here. Super duper happy with those. Inner seal, just awesome. Really happy about that one too. So, there you go.